Hello.
Hello.
My first question for you, Dad, is what do you remember about Reagan's presidency? What were some of his pros and cons during the 1980s?
Well, that's a good question, son. You know, I remember mostly pro about Reagan because I loved him, and I did, and many people loved him. What I liked about him and what I remember is even though he had a lot of political enemies, he could disarm most of them through his humor. He was very, very funny. And he would be funny in the debates that he had with, who'd he do? He had a debate with, I can't remember if it was Mondale or was with Jimmy Carter. Maybe it was Mondale, but he went, oh, there you go again. You know, he just did stuff like that. He'd tell a joke. He was great at delivering speeches, but I mean, his personality was magnetic, and he was an actor to begin with, so that would bode well in his communication. But I think that was pro about his personality. The con was that he was involved in that whole Iran-Contra, trading weapons for, supplying the rebels down in Nicaragua, to make sure that communism doesn't spread. And to the extent that he knew everything, it was on his watch, and he, claimed he didn't know, but in the end, he kind of ended up knowing more than he let on. So that was the con. He kind of lied about that. So.
All right. The next question is, what do you remember about American culture during the 1980s?
Very, very narcissistic. Very, very just free-lovish. It was definitely drugs, definitely, free sex, liquor. The movie Scarface came out in the 80s, and that really, Scarface was the extreme of kind of what was going on, and I just think it was, all the movies were slick, and it was all those elements, sex, drugs, and alcohol.
Interesting.
Money, 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 self, 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 stuff, 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 materialism, materialism, me, narcissism.
All right. My next question is, what do you remember, or do you remember any big events that happened during the 1980s?
One of the biggest events, and it did involve Reagan in terms of his response to it, was the Challenger, the shuttle. The Challenger blew up right after it took off, and it was just a huge, big event. Reagan got shot. That was a big event. Of course, I lived in New York City at the time, so a lot of what were big events to me, what was going on in New York City. So I don't know that.
That's. I think you've said quite enough. Now
that's kind of an attitude from the interviewer. You will be grounded if
what?
you keep up that.
Well,